Treemaps 1, Rock, and 2.
So, introduction to tree maps. This is where you have to start thinking. Has anybody here seen a tree map before? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Oh, that's good. That's good. Maybe half the audience. So we're going to actually get an introduction to tree maps now. So if you've never seen them before, now you'll know. You'll be that much more sophisticated after this. So imagine you have hierarchical data. On the left here, that's hierarchical data. Very, very common, right? Can anybody think of a very common source of hierarchical data that you happen to encounter on a daily basis? Budgets. Budget could be an example, yep. I wouldn't say it's the most typical example. Can anybody think of a more typical, like common hierarchical data that you're confronted with daily?
What about biological taxonomy, so like animals?
Yes, a taxonomy is a great example. Yep.
Ontology. Ontology.
An ontology, yes, yes. A sort of more, let's say, I don't know, the most common example that I can think of is your hard disk on your computer, right? That's a set of data, and you have the root folder, and then you have folders inside of folders, and you keep going until you get down to the files, right? That's a hierarchical data structure, right, that you happen to see every day. So that this depiction on the left is a hierarchical data set, and this on the right is the equivalent tree map. So what happens is the root node, right here at the top, that rectangle, gets translated into the largest rectangle in the tree map. So it reserves the space for the tree map, right? And then it's subdivided, right? And each child of the root node is also represented by a rectangle. So here we have the number 12, right? And that is represented by this rectangle, which is labeled 12, right? Here we have 8, right? And that's represented by this long, thin rectangle, right? And then we have 2 more rectangles, and this series of 2s, 3s, and 1s. So look, this rectangle here is actually here. It's the big one that encloses its 5 children. Can everybody see that? So there are 5 children there. They all have a parent rectangle, and the parent is right here. Right? It's not that easy to see, but hopefully you get the idea. And then we have another rectangle on the right, and that encompasses the rest, right? It encompasses this portion of the tree map, and it gets subdivided, right? The 6, 8, and 11 are here, and those map to this rectangle. And there's the 6, there's the 8, and there's the 11, and then we have 5, right, and then 40. Right. Did everybody follow that? Hopefully, quick introduction to tree maps. There's some tricky stuff going on here, right? Like how do you place the rectangles in space? How do you lay them out? We're actually not going to talk about that because it would take too long. But that's the subtle aspect. Is how do you do that, right? That's what the computer scientists are for. And you can also notice that the size of the rectangle is mapped to some data value. In this case, it's 40. So 40 is big, right? It's a big value, so it occupies the most space in the tree map. That's the other great property. That's a property of tree maps. Here's another example from the 90s. This one's a little bit different because they've added some padding between the rectangles, the parents and the children, so you can more explicitly see the relationship between the parents and the children, right? A162 is at the top. I should be able to reach that. There's A162, it's the root node. Then there's B10, but right, look, there's like a padding around the child node, so you can more explicitly see the relationship between the parent and the child, right, in this example. That's the only way it's different, right? Then there's C30 over there, and then D62, there's D62, right? And then it's subdivided, right, into children, F6, G6, H6. I44 has children, right, so it gets subdivided, right, and it's 5 children, right, and so on. So it's a recursive subdivision. Everybody still with me? Good, good. Any questions about that? Tree maps make sense. At least you can sort of understand what you're seeing, so to speak. Here's an actual example, right? I tried to load an actual example here. This is a program called Disk Inventory, right? It's a tree map of your hard disk. It's for free. Anybody can download it and use it. Maybe you've run out of disk space and you just thought, I wonder where my disk space went. How is that possible? I have 5 petabytes of storage here and it's gone. Like, how is that possible? Well, you can quickly find out where your disk space has been used up with Disk Inventory X, right? Very, very quickly. Right? Each rectangle here represents either a file or a folder. So the bottom level rectangles represent files. And as I move my mouse around, the actual file, its path and its name appear at the bottom here. Right? So that's looks like a book. That's an audio file, which is an audio book there. Right, and we can sort of see all my audio files got grouped together in this big parent folder, right? And these are a bunch of more audio files. So I guess I listened to a lot of audio files, right? And then you must be wondering, well, what's that big file, right? That's pictures. So that's the iTunes folder of pictures, right? That's where if I wanted to free up disk space, I should delete these, right, first, right, maybe. So that's a real example of a tree map. And there is actually a reason I'm talking about tree maps. I just thought it would be good to give the background before jumping into what we're doing here in the computer science department. So some of the nice properties about tree maps, they fill the space, so they make efficient use of space, right? They expand the data mapping to use your whole screen space. They represent hierarchies. They can be used for multivariate data, which is what you all have in healthcare. And they can handle big data sets because they're hierarchical. You can drill up and down the hierarchy interactively. There's no geospace encoded though, so I can't tell where things are happening. If there's some relationship to the real world, like people somewhere in Wales, for example, I can't tell anything about the geospace. And there's no neighborhood preservation. That means I can't tell who my neighbors are in the real world, so to speak. Yeah. And then we have question?
Treemap is iterative.
Iterative. Yes, you could say it's recursive, So any node inside the tree can be subdivided further. Yep.